This means that when Michael stands up, probation for humanity will have ceased. Every case will have been decided. Whoever is on God's side will be on God's side. Whoever is on Satan's side will be on Satan's side. Alright, hello there and welcome to another video by Zion's Watch Media. And we are now on to our next study in the book of Daniel. We are on to Daniel chapter 12. And in this one, we're going to see the meaning of Michael standing up, and we're also going to look at the prophecies such as the 1290-day prophecy and the 1335-day prophecy. So let us begin. Now, Daniel chapter 12 is actually a continuation on Daniel chapter 11. And if you saw our last video on Daniel chapter 11, we saw how the papacy was going after God's people at the end of time and was out to destroy them and the message that they were preaching. And we also saw how the Bible said that the papacy would come to its end. Now, Daniel chapter 12 picks up from there and shows us how this is going to happen. And we read here in verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Alright, so we know from our study on Daniel chapter 10 that Michael is another name for Jesus. But what does it mean that at the end of time, Michael shall stand up? Well, if we look at Daniel chapter 11 verses 2 to 3, we see that when the Bible speaks of a king standing up, it means that he's taking dominion or taking power to himself. We see this here. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. And later on it says this, and a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion. So at the end of time, when Christ stands up, he's going to take the kingdoms of this world and he's going to take the throne of his earthly father David. This was actually prophesied in the Bible. In Luke chapter 1 verses 32 to 33, we read this, and he shall be great and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. And in Daniel chapter 7 verse 14 we read, and there was given him, Jesus, dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So at the end of time, Christ is going to stand up and he is going to take the kingdoms of this world to himself. And he is going to come back to this earth as a king. Now, an important detail that we need to recognize in all of this is this. If Christ comes back to this earth in his second coming, that must mean that sometime before he has stopped his work in the heavenly sanctuary and he is no longer working as a mediator and priest for fallen man. This means that when Michael stands up, probation for humanity will have ceased. Every case will have been decided. Whoever is on God's side will be on God's side. Whoever is on Satan's side will be on Satan's side. And it will be then that Christ pronounces these words found in Revelation chapter 22 verse 11. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. When probation closes, every case for humanity will have been decided. Continuing. Let us look a little bit more at this verse in verse 1. It says that Michael, or Christ, is the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. Well, we know from Acts chapter 3 verse 15 and chapter 5 verse 31 that Jesus is also known as the prince. So this fits perfectly. And he stands for the children of thy people as well. He stands for Daniel's people, the people of God. Now it also says this, after Christ stands up, there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. After probation closes, this world is going to be in absolute chaos, and the wicked are going to be out, along with the papacy, trying to destroy God's people. But we should not worry for this, because it is said that at that time, God's people shall be delivered, every one who shall be found written in the book. This book that is being spoken of here is the book of life. We see the book of life spoken of in Revelation chapter 3 verse 5 and Revelation 21 verse 27. Now it is going to be at the second coming of Christ that God's people are going to be delivered. And 2 Thessalonians tells us how the papacy along with the wicked are going to be destroyed. It says this in chapter 2 verse 8. And then shall that wicked, speaking of the papacy, be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So the papacy is going to be destroyed by the brightness of Christ's coming at the second advent. And in chapter 1, verses 7 to 8, we read this: "And to you who are troubled, rest with us, when the Lord Jesus shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels at the second coming, in flaming fire, taking vengeance on them that know not God, and that obey not the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ." So here we see also that all the wicked living are going to be destroyed as well when the Lord comes back to this earth in flaming fire. Now let us go on to verse 2 of Daniel chapter 12. "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt." So here we see a special resurrection that takes place after the close of probation. Some of the righteous are going to be raised up, along with some of the wicked who are going to be raised up. And they will be a special group who actually see Christ coming in the clouds of heaven. And we want to be very clear on the last part of this verse, where it speaks of the wicked being raised up to shame and everlasting contempt. This is not saying that the wicked are going to be suffering throughout all eternity. It is simply saying that they will be viewed by the righteous with disdain or contempt throughout all eternity. Now, why will the wicked be raised to see Christ coming in the clouds of heaven? This is because it has been prophesied in the Bible. For Jesus, when he spoke to the Jewish leaders who were trying to condemn him at his trial, said this: "I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven." And in Revelation chapter 1 verse 7, we read about what will happen to those who pierce Christ at his crucifixion. "Behold he, Jesus, cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, Amen." So these verses make it very clear that those who took part in Christ's crucifixion are going to be raised up to see Christ coming in the clouds of heaven. They will see him not as a man of sorrows who came to die for humanity, but they will see him come as a king with power and with great glory, surrounded with all the angels of heaven. It is going to be an amazing sight, but it will not be so amazing for them. And the Spirit of Prophecy gives us a little bit more detail about all of this. We read in the Great Controversy, page 643, "There are those who mock Christ in his humiliation. With thrilling power come to their minds the sufferer's words. When adjured by the high priest, he solemnly declared, 'Hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven.' Now they behold him in his glory, and they are yet to see him sitting on the right hand of power." Those who derided his claim to be the Son of God are speechless now. There is the haughty Herod who jeered at his royal title and bade the mocking soldiers crown him king. There are the very men who with impious hands placed upon his form the purple robe, upon his sacred brow the thorny crown, and in his unresisting hand the mimic scepter, and bowed before him in blasphemous mockery. The men who smote and spit upon the Prince of Life now turn from his piercing gaze and seek to flee from the overpowering glory of his presence. Those who drove the nails through his hands and feet, the soldiers who pierced his side, behold these marks with terror and remorse. Vividly, they recall the Savior's parable of the husbandmen who refused to render to their Lord the fruit of the vineyard, who abused his servants and slew his son. They remember too well the sentence which they themselves pronounced: "The Lord of the vineyard will miserably destroy those wicked men." In the sin and punishment of those unfaithful men, the priests and elders see their own course and their own just doom. And now there rises a cry of mortal agony, louder than the shout, crucify him," which ran through the streets of Jerusalem, swells the awful, despairing wail, "He is the Son of God, he is the true Messiah." They seek to flee from the presence of the King of Kings. In the deep caverns of the earth, rent asunder by the warring of the elements, they vainly attempt to hide. Solemn words. Now let us continue in Daniel chapter 12. "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever." So the wise or the righteous at this time are going to shine as the brightness of the firmament, those who have turned many to righteousness or who have been winning souls for Christ. They shall be as the stars forever and ever. Now let us look at verse 4 right here, because this is very important. It says this: "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So Daniel is told here to shut up the words and to seal up the book, even to the time of the end. This means that the prophecies of Daniel would not be fully understood till the time of the end, till 1798. Now this is very interesting because there are many people today who say that the prophecies of Daniel cannot be understood, that it's a sealed book, and that we shouldn't study it. But according to this verse right here in Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, we are at the time of the end, and the book of Daniel is no longer sealed. We can understand it. God expects us to study the book of Daniel so that we can know where we are in the stream of time and so that we can know where we are in prophecy. Now, the verse also said that many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. This is said because after 1798, the prophecies of Daniel were taken to the entire world and were preached upon, and knowledge on them greatly increased. And this was seen very heavily in the Advent movement, where we had men like William Miller, who preached on the prophecies of Daniel, and we had Joseph Wolfe, who preached on Daniel as well. And there were many others who preached these prophecies around this time. And these prophecies were preached throughout the entire world. Now, the running of to and fro can also be a reference to the fact that since 1798, there have been huge advancements in transportation, and knowledge increasing can also be a reference to the fact that technology and knowledge has increased drastically since 1798. This cannot be denied. All right, Daniel 12, verses 5 to 7. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and sware by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. All right, now I've written something out that will help us to understand this a little bit better. So if we go right here, I've written this out. It says, So Daniel sees two individuals standing on both sides of the river, and one asked, How long to the end of these wonders, or the events just covered? The other responds, A time, times, and a half, or 3.5 years, or 1260 days. This is a clear reference to the 1260-year prophecy of papal supremacy. An additional time period is added to this, though, where the papacy, would scatter the power of the holy people. So, from 1798 onward, the papacy would continue to try and scatter the people of God, right up until Christ's second coming. This is the time in which we are living now, but after this, all these things shall be finished. Verses 8 to 10. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So Daniel didn't fully understand the vision, and he longed for more insight, but it was not God's will for him to understand everything at that moment. Daniel is told that the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Daniel's prophecies would not be fully understood till 1798 downward, the time of the end. Now the Bible also says, during this time, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. The righteous are going to be purified by the trials that they go through, and they will be made white by having their sins washed away by the blood of the Lamb and by being clothed with Christ's righteousness. And they will be tried as well, for their faith is going to be tried. But of the wicked we read this, that they shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. The wicked are going to continue in their sins, and they are not going to understand the special truths for this time. They will not understand the prophecies of Daniel. But the wise shall understand, we are told. Those that do righteously will understand this prophetic book. Okay, verse 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Now this is a very interesting verse, because if we read it according to the actual Hebrew found in the margin of the King James Version, it reads like this. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, to set up the abomination that maketh desolate, there shall be 1,290 days. So what does this all mean? So, from the time of the daily, or paganism, being taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate, or the papacy, being set up, there would be 1,290 prophetic days or years. And it's from Numbers chapter 14, verse 34, and Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6 that we know that a day in prophecy equals a year. The daily was taken away in 508 AD when paganism started being removed from Europe, when Clovis, the king of the Franks, gave his political strength to the papacy. Now, if we add 1290 years to 508 AD, that brings us to the year of 1798. This was the year in which the papacy lost its temporal power. The 1290-day-year prophecy is another proof that the papacy is the Antichrist power that is against God. And here we have a little chart that we made. So here we see the daily or paganism being removed in 508. And if we follow it down 1290 years, that brings us to 1798, where the papacy lost its power. All right, continuing. Verse 12. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1305 days. So, if we take the same starting date from the previous prophecy, 508 AD, and follow it down, that brings us to the year of 1843. This was the year of the Great Advent movement. This was when the proclamation of Christ's second advent ran throughout the world. The Bible says that there would be a special blessing for those who would live at that time and wait for this date of 1843. Here we have another chart showing this prophecy of the 1335 prophetic days or years. Brings us to 1843. All right, last verse on our study on the book of Daniel. But go thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. This could be speaking about how Daniel was soon about to die. As the verse said, he would rest in the grave. But later, at the end of days, his book would be studied from 1798 onward. This could also be saying of how, if Daniel remained faithful, he would stand with the righteous saved in the first resurrection. So this is how we can look at this verse. So thus concludes our study on the book of Daniel. I hope that you have learned a lot in this series. I know that I have, and it's been a real blessing for me to study these prophecies. And I hope that you realize from studying all of this that Jesus has not left us in the dark on what is taking place in our world. He has been with us all throughout time through prophecy. And he wants us to study these prophecies so that we will be ready for his second coming. And above all, I pray that you will give your life to Christ, for a knowledge of these prophecies is nice to have, but they mean absolutely nothing if we do not have Christ abiding in our heart by faith today. I pray that you will give your heart to him. Please open up the door. All right, now if you like this video and you want to learn more, be sure to subscribe below and to click on the bell, and we will see you in the next one. Until next time.